We're at 3:30, and I think we've at least allowed a couple of minutes for people to start logging into the call. But I think we can go ahead and get started. So just as a quick reminder, if you can please, all of my co-hosts, if you can mute while you're not talking, just so we don't have any issues. But as co-host, you should be able to unmute yourself whenever you're called on. And after we do some introductions, we're going to start getting into the questions that were submitted to us. And I'm going to call on you to provide your answer. So once someone's answering, if you'd like to add on to that, please just let me know in the chat and say I'd like to add on to it so that I can call on you. And hopefully that'll be our way to kind of control the chaos versus everyone talking over each other. But I just want to say welcome to all of our participants on the call, and a huge thank you to all of our panelists, especially all of our alumni coming back to share their experiences with our current students. I think that this will be huge. It's something we've talked about doing for a long time, and maybe now that we're all cooped up, this will be a really good way for us to share some advice with our participants. We did get several submitted questions, but I know that some people just don't know what to ask. But please, as you think of things, just send me your questions in the chat, and that way you can be anonymous about your questions. And if you'd really like to ask your question in person, send me that in the chat as well, and I can try to unmute you for you to ask your question. So with that, we're going to start with introductions of our panelists, starting with our alumni, since many of our current students haven't had the pleasure of meeting you guys. And so actually, Abby, if you're okay with being our first introduction, if you could introduce yourself, and then I will call on the next person.
Sure. Hi, my name is Abby Moore. I am a Pearadox alum from 2018. I graduated from Boston. I was on base system and chairman's. I actually only did Pearadox my senior year, so during that year I was on base and chairman's. I'm now studying mechanical engineering with kind of a minor in computer science at the University of Oklahoma. And I am a JSC co-op. So last fall, I spent the semester in EC5 working on spacesuits. And this summer, I'm back somewhat in person, maybe, doing a tour in flight operations. And I'm super excited to be here.
All right, thank you so much, Abby. Danny, if you're on, if you could introduce yourself next.
Yeah, that sounds good. So my name's Danny. I graduated in 2018. And I was actually one of the founding members on the team. I was part of the original 8 that was on the FTC team, which made this. It was a cool experience. But I am studying chemical engineering at Texas A&M. And while I was on while I was on the team, I did chairman's in base subsystem. So the best subsystems.
It is the best subsystem. I have to agree.
Unlike coding, coding's not real.
Oh goodness, it's starting early.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Danny. Is that all for your introduction? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Danny. Anissa, if you're on, could you introduce yourself next?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Anissa Castrina, and I was a Pearadox alum that graduated last year, 2019, from high school. I was a Pearland high school student, and while my time on the team, I was mainly involved with the electrical subsystem, but I also did a bit of systems integration and chairman's. And I think FRC leadership positions, as far as that goes, I was co-captain 1 year, electrical subsystem lead for a few years, and subsystem integration lead as well. And I was also a Dean's List finalist, I think is like the tier, what it was called when I went. Right now I'm attending Rice as an electrical engineering student, and I'm doing research if anyone's interested in that. But before this, I interned 2 summers at Johnson Space Center with Andrew, and this summer I'll be going to GE Healthcare.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Anissa. Justin, if you're on, would you introduce yourself next?
Hello, my name is Justin Wynn. I graduated from high school in 2019 from Turner. During my time on the team, I was part of the electrical subsystem. I didn't really do too much, anything too crazy though. So I am currently attending a U of H, and I'm trying to get a degree in electrical engineering. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it about me, or anything that's interesting.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Justin. Alan, if you're on, would you mind introducing yourself next?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Alan. I graduated last year, 2019. I attended Dawson High School. My FRC subsystem was mostly programming. I did a little bit of subsystem integration, and I'm currently attending UT Austin, doing electrical computer engineering. And previous internships, I've had 2 NASA JSC ones with Andrew, and this summer, if it doesn't get canceled because of coronavirus, I'm going to be doing avionics at Firefly Aerospace.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Lori, if you're on, if you could introduce yourself next.
Hi, I'm Lori Van Hoos. I graduated Turner at 2019. I was on 5414 from fall 2015 to 2019. And then, so I was scouting lead my rookie year, imagery lead from 2017 to 2018, then team captain 2019. 2019 summer, I had a NASA internship, and now I'm attending UT Austin. And I'm a 2158 mentor now and a VR assistant for UT Austin, where I create VR assets and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. Sophia, if you're on, would you introduce yourself next?
Yeah, so my name is Sophia, and I graduated from Dawson High School in 2018, and my FRC subsystem was programming, and I'm currently attending UT Austin in electrical engineering, and I didn't intern last summer, but if it doesn't get canceled, I'll intern this summer at NXP Semiconductors.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sophia. Ian, if you're on, can you please introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Ian. I graduated from Turner High School in 2018, and I am a junior at Lamar University. When I was on the team from 2015 to 2017, I was a good mix of manipulator and base, the 2 best subsystems, because mechanical is best. I was head engineer for, I think it was 2017, and I am currently attempting to get a degree in mechanical engineering.
Attempting.
Yes.
Long's in the way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Ian. And Jared Weaver, if you're on the call and have the ability to unmute, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. I went to Robert Turner College Career High School and graduated in 2019. And during my time on the team in my first year as a freshman, I've done bass and electrical. And in 2017, 2018, I was business lead. And 2019, I was still business lead, but I was mostly partaking in bass and safety. And right now I'm at Lamar University, same thing as Ian, trying to get a mechanical engineering degree. And over the summer, planning on taking University of Physics so I can be a little bit ahead, and yeah, and see where to go from there.
Awesome, thanks, Jared. Moving on to our mentors, Kyle, if you're still on, could you please introduce yourself next?
My name is Kyle Cook. I've been involved with FIRST. I was only involved in FIRST my senior year of high school. I played football, unfortunately, for the other couple of years. Really wish I'd done FIRST the entire time. Probably would have had a little bit better of a college experience if I'd done that. I very briefly attended the University of Texas at Dallas as an electrical engineering major, and then ping-ponged my way from not graduating, unfortunately, into my current role as a senior automation specialist at a company called Prime Controls. I did manage to get a co-op out of high school at the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District in their IT department from my programming background. So that was a glamorous co-op to have. But I've been involved with FIRST off and on since 2001. I mentored 1745, my high school team, JJ Pierce, and then found you guys 2 years ago, and been mentoring Pearland ever since. And if Andrew continues to put up with me, we'll be doing so until a career change makes me move away from Pearland. So.
Awesome, Kyle. Thank you so much. Andrew, if you're on, could you please introduce yourself next?
Sure thing. So Kyle and I have a little bit in common there. We both didn't start until our senior year of high school. So I started in 2005 was my first year of FIRST, which was my senior year of high school. And also I was playing football in the years prior before too. So I didn't know that we both did that. Yeah, so I started in 2005. I went to Purdue University, where I mentored a team while I was in college, which I do not recommend. I graduated from Purdue with a degree in computer engineering in the fall of 2009. While I was on FRC in high school, and then while I was mentoring in college, I pretty much only did programming for those first 4 years or so. Didn't step outside of that realm at all. And then while I was in college, I had a co-op at NASA. And then while I was back at college, I worked in the dining halls.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so moving into the questions that were submitted to us, and just a quick reminder, you can submit your questions to me in our chat at any point in this call. But we're going to start with the first question, and if Justin, if you're okay with being the first to answer this question, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do in college early on in high school, or did you just figure it out as you went?
So when I was in high school, I immediately knew I wanted to be an engineer, but not specifically which types, because like there's like mechanical, electrical, like in aeronautics. And so throughout high school, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to be. So before my junior year, I just decided to stick to civil engineering because that was the only class that they had there. But then after joining robotics, I decided that I was going to pursue electrical engineering. Right now, there's probably a bunch of more engineering subclasses that I might be interested in, but as of now, I'd say I don't regret choosing electrical engineering. And what was the other part?
It was, did you have an idea early on in high school, or did you just figure it out as you went?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah. I just figured it out as I went.
Okay, great. Thank you, Justin. Abby, it looks like you'd like to add on to this answer.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite. I started high school and had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to go to law school, and I'm obviously not here. But one of the things, so I was at Dawson, so it wasn't like as much like Turner where you have to pick a career path. So I just took a bunch of classes. Like I took environmental science. I was super scared, but I took AP physics, and that's where I found something I loved. So I just took as many classes and learned as many things, and then I found physics and was like, wow, I love this. And yeah, I wasn't on the team, but my brother was. So my mom was like, there's this great mechanical engineer you have to meet. So I met with Kara for dinner, and she talked to me about mechanical engineering, and I was like, yeah, I think that's what I want to do. And I was pretty sure of it going into college, and I ended up there. So just try as many things, and yeah, you're like 14 or 15. You absolutely have no idea you absolutely do not have to have any idea what you're doing in life.
Best dinner ever. Thanks, Abby. Anissa, it looks like you have something to add on to this one.
Okay, cool. I hid my button accidentally. Yeah, so I'd say when I joined high school, I was really actually already interested in like biotechnology and like the idea of making things. However, I had never really done any like hands-on technical work in my life, and I'm like, So I don't know if I can do that. So I want to figure out how to like program things that other people are going to make. So when I joined the team, I like was mainly interested in computer science. However, during my time on the team, I found out like I really enjoyed like the hands-on work and like mainly working with the electrical system, but like also some mechanical stuff. So that's when I decided I was gonna like change my focus because I knew that now that I could kind of like do the actual like physical engineering design work, I really wanted to do that in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Anissa. Andrew, did you have anything you wanted to add on to this answer?
Yeah. So I just wanted to add that I think I'm a unique case in that I've known forever, it seems like, that I wanted to work for NASA, which will kind of relate back to a later answer. But I think since like third grade or something, I was writing reports about how I wanted to work at NASA. And then when I was in eighth grade, I did a report about how I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. And I was kind of thinking that route for the entire time because I didn't really understand what NASA did. I just knew aerospace engineer. It makes sense that they'd be at NASA. And then when I joined the robotics team my senior year and I got that experience programming it and doing electrical hands-on stuff and seeing a robot move, that's when I was really like, oh man, this is what I want to do. I want to do programming type stuff and seeing things move and all that. So I went into the computer engineering route at college. I think that knowing where it was that I wanted to end up is a very unique and fortunate thing for me. I think it's very normal to have no idea what it is that you want to do. And a majority of my college peers and all that were kind of making it up as they go. And a lot of them ended up in really great spots. So if you don't know what it is that you want to do, I think that that's perfectly okay. But I was definitely an example of somebody that like I knew I knew where I wanted to end up. And then I just kind of change things along the way as to how it was that I wanted to try to get there.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. We're going to stick with the questions around picking a major because this one is maybe just a little, this question is a little slightly different. So Justin, if you're okay with starting this one again, this particular person said, I'm really scared about going into a major that leads to careers that I either dislike or feel stuck in. Did you feel the same way when you were in high school? And do you have any advice for picking a major?
As I said earlier, so I was still very indecisive of like what engineering field I wanted to go into. But for my advice, I'd say just go out and explore because So I think that if you're just trying to force yourself to to find out which career you want to go to, it's not going to work out because like you're going to end up just regretting it. But like for me, since I got to like just try out engineering in general, like I knew for sure that I wanted to be in there. And I guess if I didn't choose engineering, I'd probably choose something like the medical field. But even then, like that would just be due to my parents' wishes, and I definitely would not be happy with that.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Lori, did you have something you'd like to add on to this answer?
So for me, it was really hard to decide between doing engineering or some fine arts because I was imagery lead and I really enjoyed all the arts. So I tried combining the two. And so just realized that even if you get into a major that you don't necessarily like, you can still get minors, and there's also transferring majors. And then if you already graduated, realize you can always go back to college. It costs money, but you still can go back to college. That's really it. Just I always contemplate whether I should have been an engineer or not, but I'm still happy with what my major is for now.
Okay, thanks, Lori. Jared Weaver, did you have anything you'd like to add on to this question or this answer?
I do. So ever since I was in third grade, I wanted to be a dentist. And ever since that, like, yeah, everybody would be asking me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Dentist. But then in high school, I was like, maybe I should join the robotics team just in case. And yeah, I still have the passion of being a dentist, but in my senior year, I took a job at a dental office as a RDA. And at first, like every day when I go home, I have that weird feeling like, how come I don't like this as I thought I would. Then like I gave it some time, you know, and been working there for a year. And then I'm like, okay, I do not want to be a dentist. So then I looked at like what I did in my high school career, like what I liked doing during the high school career, like which is pretty much engineering, right? And after talking to some people, looking up some YouTube videos, did my own research, and yeah, mechanical engineering seems the proper route for me. And and like if anyone is having trouble, well, you got plenty of time in your life, pretty much. Like you got the internet, you got the mentors, you got the alumni. Like resourceful is the best tool one can have, pretty much.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Anissa, do you have anything you'd like to add on to this answer?
Yeah, I do. So I think some good advice for anyone like trying to figure out like what they'd like to major in versus like work in. Like there's kind of like two things you want to kind of look at, like content and context. So when you like do work in the future, it's going to be in some sort of field, and that's usually your context of like, oh, like this is in like a medical kind of environment, like maybe you're working in a hospital, but there are so many kind of different jobs you can do there versus like if you're like an electrical engineer, like you can do that content of work in any kind of field. And I think so maybe you would want to spend time analyzing like, okay, do I like this? Which context do I like and which content? And I think what's trickiest for most people if they don't know like what content they want to work on, it might be good for them to kind of go dive into a context they like and find out which work in that calls to them, and then you can kind of try to decide from there.
Awesome, thank you, Anissa. Kyle, did you have something you wanted to add on to this answer?
Yeah, this will actually play into one of the later questions. But I ended up in electrical engineering because UTD didn't have a mechanical engineering major available at the time. So, and I still ended up with a successful career with my start in electrical engineering and found out that I really enjoyed it. So, as previous people have said, even if you end up with a major that isn't perfect or exactly what you thought you wanted, just remain open to the experience, because you can end up doing something that you really enjoy from it. So it is not the end of the world if you find a major that you don't think is perfect for you.
Thanks, Kyle. Andrew, did you have something you'd like to add on to this one too?
Yeah, first I want to say that I think this is my favorite question of all the questions. So whoever submitted it, thank you very much. It's very good. And then second, I want to say, Anissa, I loved your answer with context versus content. I think that was worded very well, and a way that I haven't really thought about some of my struggles. So part of why I wanted to share why this was an important question to me, or my favorite one, is that, like I said earlier, I knew I always wanted to work for NASA, and then I ended up there. And I don't know, sometime in the last 5 years or so, I started to get really just like antsy about it. I don't know how to say it, but like I just wasn't enjoying my work. And I couldn't understand why. I don't really care so much about engineering. I think I'm okay with it, and it can be fun. But all that was really important for me was I wanted to work in something related to space and or NASA. That was what really drove me everywhere. And so that's that context that Anissa was talking about. And then all of a sudden I was doing all this paperwork and documentation and project management crap that I had no interest in, and it was unsatisfying all the time. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want to leave NASA. I'm not going to be able to ever come back here. And like, what would I even do otherwise? I don't want to work on like cell phones. I don't want to work in oil and gas. None of those things would be rewarding to me. And so I don't know. I struggled with that for a really long time. I was able to talk to my branch chiefs and kind of like reposition what kind of work it was that I was doing. And really, as silly as it may sound, first and FRC is some of what got me through some of that tough time, because like I really didn't like my day job, but I really enjoyed the stuff that I did with the robotics team. It was much more rewarding for me. So I guess all that's a long way around of saying like, I think it's perfectly okay to know that at some point in your career, maybe you're going to feel stuck. I felt stuck because I felt like, again, I couldn't leave. And if I would be leaving, I'd be leaving some really great things. I had a great pay. I had great job security. I had good vacation. I don't know what kind of things would happen with all my retirement. And so I think it's okay to know that you'll feel those times where you might feel stuck or you might not like your job, and what can you do to try to reposition it. It's okay if you do need to leave. But maybe you can also just find some satisfaction in some things outside of your typical day job as well. And I think it's important to share that too, because I was in a position that, as I said, my whole life, I knew where it was that I wanted to end up. So for me to like have my dream job and then still feel stuck or unsatisfied, it was a very scary time for me. So.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, we'll shift gears a little bit to talking about college applications. And so we got this question, and Abby, if you're okay with answering this one first, the question is the college application process more based on preference or based on who offers you the best deal?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and there's no easy answer. It's a little bit of a balance, and everyone has to strike their own balance. The first thing I'm going to say is if you're choosing between somewhere where you're going to have to take out a lot of debt and no debt, you should go no debt. See Andrew nodding. Yeah, always go towards no debt. That just sets you up to be able to take the jobs you want, even if they have lower pay, and it sets you up really well. But at the end of the day, I ended up choosing the school that offered me slightly less money. They were both good offers, but you have to look at the places where you're going to be able to get the opportunities you want. So for me, one of my big non-negotiables is I've loved robotics and I wanted to be on a competition team. So picking a school that had that. So if it's within a reasonable price range and you're like, okay, I'm not taking out a massive amount of debt for either of these, then you can start looking at those things. And it is okay to say no to a slightly better deal if you think it's going to set you up to where you want to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby. Let's see. Anissa, would you like to add on to this one? It sounds like, I was trying to read it. It says from a tour guide perspective, and I think absolutely.
Yeah. So just like for reference, at Rice, some of my time I spend working as a tour guide. So I think I can kind of help you like list a lot of factors like I see a lot of students choosing between, and kind of like some of my own I chose between. So what a lot of people are looking for, like you're going to school kind of to like set up your future. Of course, it doesn't have to be as big as that. You can really like get like the first level off of like any school. Like it's really hard to judge, and at the end of the day, it's kind of like what fits you best. I know like the school I went to, at the end of the day, kind of like my final decision was like it was the financially the best choice for me. But like I found like it offered certain things that I was really attracted to, but then like a lot of schools do. So I would say when you're looking for schools, if you want to do research, you might want to like spend some time looking up like, does this university make research really accessible for students? Additionally, like class sizes seems to be like a big factor. A lot of students like want to spend time making sure they don't get lost. Of course, when you do have like bigger class sizes, it's also good to check out some of the materials they'll have for students, like TAs or like forums for help and stuff like that, and like study groups, like whatever a school does to kind of like, even if it's not small. I know UT did a really good job of making the campus seem smaller by having like smaller groups. And then what kind of like networking availables the university may have for you, and just kind of like whatever you're interested in. Like I wanted to go to a school with a really good makerspace, so I like those were some of the things that put some colleges higher on my list. And then like even still for me at the end of the day, it was the financial package. It's like if you're going to college to set up your whole future, even if it doesn't have some of the facilities you like, it's better off not to start off your whole future in debt.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anissa. Sounds like Andrew, you also have something to add on to this?
Yeah, I'll just keep it real brief. I think the most important thing to get out of college is whatever kind of networking that you can do. And so I think that very much relates to what Abby and Anissa was saying of like finding the things that are most important to you, whether it's research or a robotics club or whatever the case may be. I knew Purdue had my attention because they had co-ops that worked at NASA. And the networking that I did early on in college is a big reason why I was able to end up here, I think, which I'll probably share about later. But beyond that, when I was in high school, I was dumb and thinking like, oh man, if I can get into MIT, no matter what, I want to go there because it's MIT. And I'm so thankful that I got rejected from there, because I think that it would not have been worth all of the extra money for it. So I don't think that a big name college is worth all the extra money if you're not getting a good package deal or whatever. And that the most important thing is networking, because once you have your job, like, very few people care about what college you were at other than to like make fun of each other. Like, there's no real value in your college name after you have your degree and after you have your first job, in my opinion.
Thanks, Andrew. It looks like Lori, is there something that you'd like to add on to this topic too?
I know that a lot of colleges actually have Reddits where you can go make a post like, hey, does this major have XYZ? And usually you get a response pretty fast. Like, I asked, like, for my major, like, how much math did I need for it? And they were like, oh, you don't actually need that much math for your major. And it's like, yes, good. And now you know these things. And like, just if you know people who went to it, specifically the major you're looking into, because each major can be very different on how they're handled within a college. So like, I know my major has a lot more like internship opportunities than a lot of other majors do, because of just everyone wants a game designer for their game in Austin because it's Austin.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. Okay, we're gonna shift into, we were talking about college applications, and so we got a couple of questions related to GPA, AP classes, dual credit, SATs, things like that. So I'd like to maybe start with Justin, if you're okay with answering this question first. So one question we got was, putting GPA and rank aside, did dual credit or AP classes prepare you better for college level classes?
So being at Turner, I took dual credit classes, and I would say that dual credit, the dual credit classes that they offered did not prepare me very well for the classes at U of H, since the dual credit classes were at Alvin, which is a community college, and I've heard, and normally community colleges, they have much easier classes than what you would find at universities. But it did help me set in my academic plan, because I would if I had to take those classes at U of H, it would cost me at least not even, but like, it would cost me a lot more money than I would have if I were to take it at school. And because I already took it, I basically saved like 2 years. And actually, during my first experience, during the fall semester, it was actually really relieving to not have to take those classes, because I've heard that other students who took it were like struggling a lot, like U.S. history and English. I personally didn't like any of those subjects, so if I were to take it at U of H, I definitely would have struggled a lot, and I actually would have failed both of them.
All right, thank you so much, Justin. Daniel, it looks like you'd have something that you'd like to add on to this question.
Yeah, so I think my advice as far as taking whether you should take AP or dual credit, I think you absolutely should take those classes. And just because even if you don't accept the credit, like in college, it can make your first year a lot easier. Like, I personally didn't accept a bunch of AP credit, but it definitely helped like prepare me to be like, okay, I know what like a college class is going to look like. And kind of elaborating on what Justin said a little bit is that AP credits can save you a lot of money and time in college. Like, I know some people, and they accepted, I don't know, like, I think it was like 30 plus hours of AP credit. So they get to graduate a whole year early, is basically what that means. So I definitely know if you're like trying to save money for college, which is very important, I would definitely recommend taking dual credit and AP in high school, because getting the credit for that test can really help you set you up for success.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. Alan, it looks like, do you have something you'd like to add on to that as well?
Yeah, so I can't really say much about dual credit because Dawson doesn't have as much of a dual credit program than Turner does, but like for AP at least, I think it's really important to take it when you're applying to especially for applying to colleges, because it's really important. Because like if you take dual credit at Dawson, I believe, like, I think it's still this way. It's only a 5.0 class compared to a 6.0 AP class. So I mean, it's going to basically decrease your rank significantly if you take any non-AP classes, and that's I mean, rank doesn't really describe you as a person, but colleges care about it. So if you, yeah, it's going to definitely help a lot for getting into colleges. But claiming AP credit is also super helpful. So I have a lot of friends at UT who basically just got screwed over because they didn't take AP physics, even though they had the opportunity. They thought like, oh, I don't need this. Like, I can just take it at college. But it turns out that college physics and like college history, writing, there's just so much more work and require more time than some of the AP counterparts. So I think it's really great to just take AP classes during high school and just get it over with now and relax in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. Looks like Jared, you have something you'd like to add on to that?
Yeah, I do. So in high school, graduated with an associate's degree, but with the mechanical engineering degree, it does like require you to take calculus, so that the calculus class credit itself would give you more engineering classes. But then it took the pre-calculus class during the associate's degree program. And so how that made a burden for me is to like, well, apply for a scholarship that required a full-time credit hours. So I had to like look for other classes that I take. Well, hey, I could take composition. I already took that. Hey, I could take world history. Hey, I could take U.S. history. Already took that. And yeah, so that's like a little note to self. Any high school students listening, if you're taking DC classes, yeah, be ready to take, be ready to research what classes to fill up your credit hours. Like if not, then lucky you. And also my roommate, he didn't graduate with an associate's degree, but looking at his classes that I took in high school, it's kind of the similar, like with all the essays I had to write and all the exams. And his sociology professor, like, yeah, he's a big meanie, but he would just cancel classes anyway. So yeah, it all depends on your professors.
Okay, well, thanks, Jared. Looks like Abby, do you have something that you'd like to add?
Yeah, probably a weirdly specific situation, but I knew coming into college that my major goal was to get into the Pathways program. And so I applied as a freshman, which like I had been on campus for 3 weeks and applied to the program. And the only reason I was allowed to do that is because I cashed in on a bunch of AP credit. It also freed up my schedule, and that's why I'm working towards a minor, because I got out of a lot of gen ed, so I got to add in the classes. But yeah, if you have a really specific co-op or something you want to apply for, having that sophomore standing opens a lot of doors as far as internships and stuff.
Awesome, thanks, Abby. Anissa, did you have something that you'd like to add too?
Yeah, I think this might be reiterating on some things, but I just want to kind of be clear and tie it back to the last question. So when you are, and this might be a little specific, but I think it's worth when you research for like what colleges you're applying to, you know this. I, for one, took like a lot of AP classes, and I probably could have graduated a year early, but Rice works on like a distribution system. So while I do get hours, it didn't like put me forward in progress to my degree a lot at all. So like you should just be conscious when you're like applying to colleges, like if you were like really trying to graduate early, like does this college still allow you to do that with like what hours you have and stuff, and like making sure that this college may accept AP classes, but like do they accept the scores you were like you received for your AP credits and stuff like that.
Good point. Thanks, Anissa. Lori, did you still have something that you'd like to add too?
So like I took dual credit, but then I also had AP classes that were used to fulfill some of my associate's degrees requirements. So it was an interesting thing. Just the AP classes overall are probably, they feel a lot harder than the dual credit classes. However, dual credit could be just as hard depending on the teacher, but there were some teachers that would literally give you 2 assignments that were graded throughout the whole year, to a teacher that would give you 4 essays throughout the whole year, and you'd be like, oh great, now I have to do all this. So there's that, but then there's also, it depends on what you want to get out of college, I feel. If you want the true college experience, skipping past all the credits can cause you to feel left out, because as someone who skipped past chemistry, English, history, all my friends are like, oh my goodness, chemistry's so hard. And I'm like, chemistry, yeah. Like I never had to take chemistry, like period. I didn't have to take the AP or dual credit. I just took astronomy dual credit whenever I was in Turner, and like, I don't know. I don't understand chemistry anymore. I don't need to for my major, but like it kind of makes you feel left out in a way, but also you get out of college a year early, which can save you like $20,000 to like way more than $20,000, which can feel pretty great. So it's just a weighing thing.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Lori. It looks like, Justin, you had one more thing you wanted to add?
I forgot to mention this earlier. So I would say definitely go for AP and dual credit classes, but yeah, be wary of I'm jumping off of what Jared said earlier. So be wary when you get into college regarding scholarships, because for my incident is that, so I did save a lot of money and 2 years in college, but I got a certain scholarship that required me to be a full-time student. And so what ended up happening was that I had to choose like 2 more classes that I didn't even need in my degree plan at all. So that kind of ended up wasting a little bit of money. So yeah, just be wary when you're applying for scholarships. When you check out like the guidelines about what you're gonna basically end up with.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Andrew, I know that you said you wanted to answer this one. Do you have anything that you'd like to add on?
I don't think that there's anything I have to add on that hasn't been iterated already.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is getting a little more GPA specific. So Sophia, if you're okay with answering this question first, the question we received is, a lot of people stress over GPA, and I'm curious about how much do your grades in high school affect acceptance in college?
I think that GPA doesn't matter like too much when it comes, or it depends on really what kind of college you want to get into. But for UT, I think as long as you have like the top 6% of your class, then you can have like automatic acceptance, which really helps, especially if you like want to get into like a competitive major or something. And if like private schools, I think don't care as much about like your GPA. They look at like your whole application as a whole. So like extracurriculars like robotics really helps, and like anything that makes you stand out that you do in high school, like anything extra on top of school, those are all really helpful. And I guess for public colleges, my advice would probably be like, as long as you can get like to the, I guess, rank that you need in order to get automatic acceptance, after that, just work on your extracurriculars, and that's probably the main thing that colleges will look at.
Awesome, thanks, Sophia. Looks like Kyle, do you have something you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, so I warned everybody that I was going to be on here as the example of what not to do. And yeah, I've still turned out to be pretty okay in life. It's been a rocky road to get here, but as far as your GPA goes, robotics is amazing, but Andrew's order is family, classes, robotics. I think there might be 1 or 2 other in there, but that is absolutely the correct order of things. I went from a 3.5 to a 2.9 GPA my senior year of high school, and I had the distinction of having the lowest GPA to be accepted into UTD the year that I was accepted. So that is not a fun thing to have. Now, grant you, I got accepted because I had the robotics experience and wrote a pretty decent essay. So GPA is important. It's not just your extracurriculars, and if you don't focus on those things, it can end up coming back to bite you. And the other thing, it probably should have been an indicator to me that I wasn't ready to go to a full-on university. I crashed and burned my freshman year, and we'll go into that later. But just as an indicator, if you're, and somebody correct me if you disagree with this, but I probably should have gone to a community college and got a better idea of what college life was going to be before I tried to go to an engineering college, just because I wasn't prepared, I wasn't organized enough, and I wasn't responsible enough to make it through. So anyway, that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Kyle. Okay, so let's switch over to a question about.
Wait, can I add on that?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to say a couple of things on that. I think directly to the question, I think GPA, you need something that stands out. And so GPA can make you stand out, or if you've got kind of a more average GPA, having other things to stand out, like Kyle saying he had a good essay that helped him stand out for his application, or whatever kind of extracurricular hobbies, or like Alan doing his quadcopter thing at home, that I think was just a thing that he did. It wasn't even part of a project. So having something to stand out, if you want to, get into some spectacular program, whatever that is, it needs to be something to stand out. And I also just want to echo what Kyle said, where I've got lots of friends that they went into college before they were really ready for it. They picked a major because it's what somebody told them to do, or what their parents wanted them to do, or what they thought they had to do, or whatever. And then they end up losing a lot of money or being in debt for a long time with various things. So I would think that it is perfectly okay to go to community college. I think it's very hard to wait for a year or two after high school. So if you go out of high school and you go work for a couple of years with the plan of going to college afterwards, that's absolutely doable. But I think that is very hard to do, because high school and college are hard. Once you start making money and you have nights and weekends free or whatever, and when you're young and you aren't thinking about retirement or whatever else, you're like, oh, this is fine. I've got enough food for groceries and I'm paying my apartment rent or whatever. And so I think it is important to try to get through a degree early if you're planning on doing it, or have a good career path that outlines how you can move up without a college degree, or going into community college and trying to get some of the basics out of the way while you grow up a little bit more. I think all of those things are A-okay. So if you're struggling with a low GPA, go to community college, get some classes, get a good GPA so you can transfer, and having a high GPA in your community classes will help you, some of your lower GPA in high school be forgiven.
Awesome, thanks, Andrew. And I think we have a quick follow-up question for you off of this, and it's around being able to stand out. So for you, do you think that FRC is really enough to stand out when it comes to applying for college?
For me, my take on this is that it depends a lot on what it is that you do with it. And I think this is true regardless of what the hobby is or what it is that you're doing. If you just say that you are on a high school robotics team, whatever, that doesn't do anything. To borrow Kara's terms here, you need a good personal story. How is it that it impacted you? How is it that you impacted others through it? And it can be FRC, it can be something with your church, it can be something with your drama club, whatever the thing may be that you're doing, band or orchestra. Whatever it is that you can do to make a personal story out of it, what it is that you did almost doesn't matter. It's really conveying to them why it was important, how it impacted you, how you impacted others with it. So personally, I think, of course, Pearadox gives you the most opportunities to do the greatest things to talk about. I think it really matters on your engagement of it.
Awesome, thanks, Andrew. It looks like, Daniel, you've got something you'd like to add on to this?
Yeah, so something I guess I didn't really realize when I did FRC in high school was that a lot of people do FRC, like way more than you think. Because when you're on the team, you kind of know like who your friends are and everyone that like at your school does it. But once you go to college, like I remember I would just wear robotics shirts sometimes and people would come up and recognize me, which was really crazy because I thought we were like such an unknown team. But so that's kind of put it in scale too, I think, is that like a lot of people do robotics, you know, outside of just like our team, there's hundreds of other teams in just the state of Texas alone. And you have all the out-of-state applicants too for colleges. So definitely when you're applying, it's good to mention you did FRC. We don't just say, oh, I was on a robotics team. Say like, oh, I did this on the robotics team and it affected the community and such and such. The good method I'd recommend is the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, response. I'd say definitely focus on that in your essay.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Okay, switching to, oh, sorry, Anissa, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I think I agree, like robotics is definitely like, as if with anything, you get out what you put in. I'd say what kind of helped me like put in a lot to get out a lot is like, when I realized like from something outside of robotics, like I took a cause that was really important to me, from not necessarily like completely isolated from robotics, but it was something I realized not during my time, and I kind of brought into our team with like some girls in STEM initiatives. Like I think that really helped me like put a lot into the team and like work on things that like made me stand out later in like applications and interviews and stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, Anissa. All right, we've got a question about picking a college. So Abby, if you're okay with answering this question first, the question is, what helped you decide on the college you attended? What are some of the factors you considered, and were there any factors that you wish you had considered?
Yeah, so I talked about it earlier, but definitely scholarship. Go a place that's going to make you not be in debt. But when it comes, y'all are all smart, probably have a couple good offers. So when it comes with choosing between those, I touched on it earlier again, but it was really important for me that I had a competition team. I'm repping our shirt. I'm on the Sooner River team. And finding ways to engage outside the classroom. I was down between OU and A&M, and I was looking at A&M, which is a school that was going to have a lot more rigorous curriculum, but because of that, maybe not as many opportunities outside the classroom, and OU, which is definitely not as much of a rigorous curriculum, but I had a lot of opportunities outside of the classroom. So it's just deciding what is important to you. And I really wanted a co-op, and I knew that one of the things they look for on co-op applications is a lot of hands-on experience. So I picked somewhere where I could walk into that the first day. Think of other things. Yeah, I wish that I had considered the fact that I wanted a little bit more of a harder curriculum. We're getting into my sophomore year and my classes are finally starting to pick up a little bit. So something I wish I'd done is worked on finding a place that was a good balance, because I think I could have been challenged a little bit more. But yeah, scholarship, hands-on opportunities, and that's another thing. So OU, the College of Engineering itself, has like over 200 student organizations. So finding places that invest in their student organizations and giving you opportunities to show leadership and get hands-on, because at least in my experience, you're going to get 10 times more from anything you do outside the classroom than in it.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. Kyle, I don't know, did you have anything that you'd like to add on to this question about what factors kind of helped you pick a college?
My advice was going to be pick more than one. I also only applied to UTD, and it would have been a much better idea for me to apply to some other schools. I was not the best student in high school, and wish I'd had some mentors to give me advice on what I was doing. Sorry, my kitten is going nuts. But yeah, so definitely apply to more than one, because if you don't get into the college that you want to get into, you need to have a fallback. So it's really nice to have scholarship opportunities, but you also have to perform in high school and do those things that make you stand out in order to get scholarship opportunities. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Anissa, did you have something that you'd like to add on to this?
Yeah. So I'd say when you apply to colleges, like, don't be too scared to apply to a lot. You probably, like, even if your goal is to apply to like so many. You'll get in like probably around like 8 applications by the end of the day because they can be time consuming to fill out, and that's fine. I think one of like the fun but also like the really tricky and difficult parts of picking a college are like those extra essentials. Like if you know which colleges aren't going to put you in debt and give you good packages, then at the end of the day, that's when you get to decide like, do they have a really good study abroad program? Do they have like the kind of resources I would like, the research? Like a part of the reason I went to Rice also because I wanted to like enumerate on Abby's point, it is really important. Like I knew Rice had a really good rocketry team. So that's been really fun for me personally. And yeah, just like, I really liked Rice because of like how small it was, the really friendly and collaborative atmosphere, and like the amount of resources per student the school gave. I think that one's super important because it shows up everywhere else, like in the study abroad offices or in the clubs. Like if the school puts a lot of like capital for each student, like that ratio is really good, like you'll get a lot back out of the school.
Awesome. Thanks, Anissa. We're going to switch over to paying for college. So Ian, if you're okay with kicking us off for this question, and it's a little bit involved, so let me just read through it. So the question is, do you have any advice for how to pay for college? This virus stuff is causing me to think outside the box on how I can make sure my tuition is covered. Can you talk about what you did, wish you would have done, or what you plan to do?
First step, stop. Ignore the numbers. Don't freak out. So I'm not outright having to pay for all of the college, but I'm in a situation where scholarships aren't covering everything. Take subsidized federal student loans first. They have one of the lower interest rates out there. And if you can cover everything with that, you're good. If you can't, you're going to look for unsubsidized student loans. Go to a credit union first. I don't care how many years you've been with your current bank or how at home they make you feel or whatever. If you can get even 0.5% lower on that interest, it's going to make a big difference at the end of your college. Because let's get real, that 4-year degree is 5-6 years long from everyone I've talked to. Also, when you're signing up for a loan, make sure that you don't have to start making payments if you take off for school to do a co-op. Most loans you can do deferment, where you don't pay until you're done with college. If you take not a semester off, but drop lower than full time to do a co-op, sometimes they don't want you to start paying it back. That's not exactly optimal when you're 3 years into a 4-year degree. So make sure you understand the fine print. When you have questions, ask them. They have to tell you an answer. So information is free. Get it. That's really about it. Also, apply for as many scholarships as you can. Clicking submit is free.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ian. Andrew, did you have anything that you'd like to add on to what Ian said?
I was very fortunate in my situation, so I don't have as much firsthand knowledge on a lot of the different things here, but I do want to emphasize Ian's, apply for as many scholarships as you can. There's a lot that like just people don't apply to either because they're not looking for it or whatever. And one of my biggest frustrations when talking to students is like, oh, well, just let me know when you find something. I'm like, no, that's not my responsibility. You need to go out there and you need to find them. Don't rely on your guidance counselor to point them out to you. Don't rely on your Pearadox mentors to point them out to you. There's scholarships, there's little scholarships for stupid things everywhere. It could be $500, it could be $100, it could be $5,000, but you apply for a bunch of them, you get as many as you can. And Ian had some very good points in there. So I think he covered a lot of the good stuff.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Anissa, did you have something that you'd like to add on to that?
Yeah, so I would like to respond like to the last two people talk. Like with Ian's point, like I think that's super important. I had to take an entire class like to have someone explain to me like what the different like loan types were, in case that was like a worry. I'd also say like I'm assuming everyone's like school district, or at least like Pearland does, and we're really lucky, they'll put together an entire local packet, a local scholarship packet I don't know if the due dates on that have already passed, but the local scholarship packet is super good. Like, I was able to like receive a few awards from there, and they were handing them out to like any student who asked. But like, honestly, there wasn't too much competition because not a lot of people were asking about that scholarship packet. But I found that one really valuable. And then like, if you should probably check if your college that you're applying to has anything to do with FIRST, because there are some really good like FIRST of the college, like a group, like they'll give out some really good scholarships.
Awesome. Thank you, Anissa. Let's see. So Ian, if you're okay with also being the first to answer this set of questions about paying for college. So the question is, did you get a job your freshman year? Did you get this job to pay for college, or was it mostly for the job experience? I heard getting an internship can set your graduation back, and I'm not sure if it's worth it.
All right, so I got a campus job the first semester of my freshman year as an IT assistant. I didn't actively seek this out. They emailed me about it, so I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. Don't do that. Don't get a job your first semester. You're still going to be trying to figure out everything. And I'm lucky because I don't have hours I have to work. I have a minimum hour quota that's not set, so I can show up and come as I please. So it works very well for me. Most jobs aren't going to be like this. So for at least your first semester of freshman year, don't get a job and focus on learning to manage your time properly. As far as internships and co-ops, internships are usually in the summer, so that shouldn't affect your graduation time as long as you're not, taking summer classes. And I'd say go for it because it looks great on a resume and it's income, which is nice. Co-ops during the semester, talk to your advisors, learn how it's going to affect everything. In terms of what it's going to do for your graduation, it will push it back a little bit, but it shouldn't be more than a semester per co-op. Or you can possibly take online classes during that period, so it won't affect you as much. Make sure that you won't have to start making payments on your loans, of course, if you do take a co-op. The experience is worth a lot more than the money you're going to have to spend to stay at college a little bit longer, because that'll help you get a job out of the gate, and also it can help you get a job offer before you graduate, which is amazing. That's about it. Your mileage may vary.
Awesome, Ian. Thank you. Abby, do you have anything that you'd like to add on to this question?
Yes, definitely do co-ops. Yeah, Ian pointed out the good difference. Internships are during the summer, co-ops are during the school year. But even during the school year, it's super worth it. Talk to your college, especially if you know that co-oping is something you want to do. So talk to your prospective colleges. I eliminated any college from my list if they wouldn't put a scholarship on hold. So my scholarship is 8 semesters, and even though I'm taking 2 off to co-op, it's still going to carry me all the way through because they just put it on hold while I'm gone. So make sure you go in and just be really frank with your advisor. Be like, I want to do this co-op. This is when I'm thinking it. And if you kind of know from the first day that you walk in, they can do a lot to accommodate you. Since I'm taking 2 semesters off, I'm still going to be there 5th year for victory lap. But you can do a lot to accommodate and make sure you're not incurring extra costs. Yeah, like Ian said, the money it's nice. That's what I'm using to pay for my apartment this semester. And also just, I think it was way at the beginning, but talking about feeling like I don't want to get trapped. I don't know what I'm going to do. Getting a co-op and really taking a whole semester to immerse yourself in this is what it's like to work. This is what I'm going to be doing with my degree. Is this even something I like? Is super valuable. And then you come back and you have all this context and all this kind of reason for being at school. Yeah, so definitely if you get the opportunity to co-op and your school is willing to work with you, you should definitely do it. And if you know that co-oping is something you're interested in, either through the NASA program or through another program, talk to the colleges when you're applying and just be really frank that this is something you want to do, and ask them how they can make you how they can help you make it happen. Because at the end of the day, your advisors, your academic advisors or financial aid people, they're all there because they want to see you succeed. So if you come to them and say, I have this really awesome opportunity, 9 times out of 10, they're going to want to figure out how to make it work for you. Yeah. And then, yeah, there's lots of jobs on campus. Like Ian said, I'm going to TA next semester. So as you get older and you make relationships with professors, you can be a teaching assistant and do tutoring and show up to classes and stuff. And it's a pretty easy way to make a stipend.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. And real quick, if you're not looking in the chat, Anissa also says check and see if there are any programs at your school that allows you to get compensated for uncompensated research. So thank you for that, Anissa. Lori, did you have something that you'd like to add on to this question too?
As a freshman with a part-time job from campus, it is very difficult. However, it's just a lot of time management, really. And so, like, if you're not good at time management, and you know that based off of how much do you procrastinate? Do you do your project the last day? Don't do a part-time job your first year. Do not do it. However, I am doing it. They walked up to me and offered me it. And it's a stay-at-home, max 10 hours a week type thing. It's really good, especially since now I'm working from home. I don't have to like walk anywhere for classes. I can just sit down for like 30 minutes to 60 minutes and work on some work stuff. It's really nice, but you need to make sure it's a job that you can do. If it's like 20 hours, I would not be able to do it. But with 10 hours a week, I'm able to handle it, but you just need to make sure you do things within your limits and like schedule things out. Be like, okay, realistically, I need 30 minutes before and after class usually to like make sure like I have all my homework in line. I have things to walk to dorm. I have to walk to get food, eat food, walk back to dorm. Schedule everything your week out with your classes, what it would look like with a 10-hour job if you're mentoring a team, which Andrew would not recommend, and things like that. Just put everything in there and be like, oh, I can't fit it and still eat. I probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, good advice. Thanks, Lori. And real quick, Jared says it's also good to look into jobs during your freshman year so that you can apply for them for your sophomore year on and off campus jobs. So thank you for that, Jared. Okay, so let's switch into some first related questions. And so Sophia, if you're okay with answering this one first, and I think I want to get some perspective from several people on this question. So if you could go back and do back to high school, specifically Pearadox, what would you do differently? Basically help me understand what I might be missing out on even though I'm currently on the team.
Well, I think Pearadox is like such a unique opportunity compared to everything else in high school and even college. So in college right now, me and Alan are in a robotics club called like Break Mouse and RoboSub, but they're not nearly as structured or like organized, I guess, as Pearadox. And we are basically on our own instead of like getting help from mentors. So that's like really helpful, being able to have somebody to ask for help. And for, I guess what I would do differently is probably focus more on like exploring things that I am interested in for like the subsystem. So if you're in like programming, then you could try different like programming projects on your own to see like if you like, they're really satisfying to complete like a Python program to play like Snake or something. They're like really fun and also help you decide like, is this what I want to do later on? And also like, I think I shouldn't have spent so much time focusing on school things, because now high school GPA doesn't matter as much once you're in college, even though they're really important when getting into college. But people don't really look at your high school grades anymore.
Awesome, thanks, Sophia. Ian, did you have something that you'd like to share with this question?
So I wished I didn't stress as much. And there was this guy on the team, I think his name was Andrew, and he kept going on and on and on. God, I can't forget it. It haunts me in my dreams about this thing called family school robotics.
I may have heard that.
God, he wouldn't shut up about it. But I wish I listened. 2016, 2017, robotics was all I did. And I was also dead set on having a good GPA. So I killed myself over the course of 2 years, and I burnt myself out, and I still have yet to really recover from it. Focus on your GPA. I wish I focused on school and let robotics sit when I didn't need extra stuff to do. That way I would have been there for the 2018 season. And don't be afraid to cut back when you need to. If you are tired all the time, you need to stop doing something. And for me, that would have been going to robotics every day of the week. Yeah, you'll miss a little bit, but it won't screw you over farther down the line. So manage your time. And if you're staying up till 1 a.m. and slamming down monsters every night, you're doing it wrong. I wish I listened to Andrew's family school robotics thing. Listen to it. It's not a joke. That's about it.
Thank you, Ian. I think I'm glad I'm recording this because I think that's what we'll
Also,
replay
14 wheels wasn't enough.
Oh man, we don't have enough time left to get into that, but thank you for that, Ian. Justin, did you have something that you'd like to add on to this answer?
Yes. So, unfortunately for me, I definitely didn't do as much as I could have when I was on the team. But if I got another chance to start over, I definitely would have, instead of what I was doing initially, which was bolt sorting, I should have just like explored all the subsystems and like get to know the team a little more so that I could like know how I could help the team. Because initially, the only reason why I decided to do bolt sorting was because I thought, oh no, I have to be useful to the team somehow immediately. But then, yeah, so I pretty much wasted my 1 year on robotics, and that happened to me my junior year as well. And so senior year was pretty much was when I decided to start exploring my engineering options, which was then how I chose electrical. So yeah, I definitely messed up quite big time. But overall, I'd say that don't rush things. Like from choosing your career to like trying to be part of the team. Just take it easy. But like don't don't slack off. But like at least just pace yourself, pretty much.
Definitely. Thanks, Justin. Daniel, do you have something that you'd like to add on to that?
Yeah, so I did a lot in robotics, and I don't have much regrets. One thing I am kind of upset about is like there's this really great like first culture, which is kind of bigger than our team, and I think our team has gotten better about like being more aware of it. But like especially in our rookie year, we weren't like super interactive with other teams. I think we've gotten better about that now. So I'd say that was definitely my biggest regret was I didn't get like super involved with the first culture till like my junior or senior year on the team. But I definitely still like explore around. I know JVN, he writes a really funny blog, not very frequently as much, but it's very good. I would definitely recommend it. Just search JVN blog in Google. We get a shout out in it if you go back to 2018 Denver. So it's really fun, and I would say just kind of make friends on other team. Don't stress so much about we have to win this event, and it's how well we do is solely determined by how many blue banners we get. It should be measured by how much fun you're having, and that's really what I have for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. Kyle, did you have something that you'd like to add to this answer?
Absolutely. Andrew probably agrees with me in this one. Let your friends know that FIRST exists. I mean, Pearadox does a great job of branding, and you guys get out there a lot, but I didn't know about robotics till my senior year. If I had known about it earlier, I would have joined it earlier, and I would have had more opportunities to figure out what worked and what didn't. I was fortunate in that I got to work on the mechanical subsystem and ended up loving it, but if that hadn't been my forte, I would have wasted my opportunity my senior year. So the more people know about FIRST, the more opportunities they have to learn about it and to explore it. So I wish that I had known about it sooner, and I wish that the people in my school had been more active in promoting it, because I just saw a flyer on the hallway, on a little 8.5 by 11 sheet that said robotics team, and that was the extent of their advertising. So I really wish I'd been more involved with the community back then. It is a very important component of FIRST, for you and for your friends. So.
Thanks, Kyle. Maybe definitely that's a cue to some of our marketing and advertising people as well, just to make sure that we keep that in mind, because that's definitely, we wish we had more people that knew about us. So thank you for that, Kyle. Lori, it looks like you have something you'd like to add on too.
So what's weird is I don't think I would go back and change anything, because everything needed to happen how it did in order for me to become the person I am today. I think I felt like if I'd gone into mechanical earlier, I wouldn't have been able to come to terms with it myself. Like, I do enjoy technical stuff. Sometimes I felt like, oh, I shouldn't be in technicals because of XYZ. And like nowadays I'm like, oh, why didn't I do it? However, if I didn't take the time to like learn and accept like, hey, you can do whatever you put your mind to and whatnot, like, then I wouldn't be the person I am today. And then I enjoyed every single year that I had. Like, first year scouting, I enjoyed it. Paper scouting is way worse than digital scouting, but I still enjoyed it. And then for 2 years, imagery lead, like, that was a lot of fun, and I got to do more of the non-technical side, and like every now and then I kind of wandered over and helped make spacers or whatever, maybe like poke around in electrical, be like, I don't think the battery should be not strapped down, it should be strapped down type thing, like the obvious things. And then my last year I got to do more mechanical stuff, and then I got to do 4 years, like Anissa's saying, like, she didn't get to do all 4 years. Sometimes I wish I could do 5 years. I'm like, not that I want to fail high school, but that I wish I could have joined Pearadox earlier even than I did. And then like interacting with the community, like at events, just go around and talk to people. It's so much fun and I enjoy it so much. And then like drive team, like I enjoyed drive team so much. And like I think 2 things I would actually change is probably learn more CAD, and which CAD is pretty good. And then I would have tried to be on better at drive team, even though like I did my best. I still wish I could have done more for drive team, because like it was such a fun experience and like a lot of adrenaline, and it like helped me become more confident and outspoken as a person. Just do everything you want to do.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Lori. Andrew, is there something that you'd like to add on?
Yeah. First off, I'm glad that we are recording this. I think that there's some really good things hearing from our alumni that, one, I love hearing, and 2, is just interesting to hear. So thank you, everyone, for tying in or adding those things so far. And I also hope that our students listening are taking some of these things to heart. I just want to relate some of what they're saying as far as like, oh, I wish I could have done it, more than my senior year, or even more than all 4 years of high school. And I think that's why it's important that we try to have a good experience for our FTC teams that I'm trying to get you all to mentor, because even our students that were on it for all 4 years, they're like, man, I wish I could have done it better or earlier. And if we give them a good experience in FTC, hopefully, it's not like, oh, I wish I was on Pearadox sooner, so much as like, I'm glad I did FTC when I was in junior high. But the thing that I want to relate the question back to, the question was about, what would you do different, especially on Pearadox? And I think that's a really hard question. So it's a good question. It causes me to reflect a lot of like, man, what do I wish I would have done differently? I'm not going to answer from the high school perspective, but I think it still relates, is that with work, what I wish I would have done more earlier in my career is really sit down and read and learn some and observe some about the whole process of like a project. And so like learning about the preliminary design reviews and the critical design reviews and what a project has to go through in its whole life cycle, and what the different terms are, what really has to happen in order for something to come to fruition. It was really easy for me as a new employee to say like, oh, well, my responsibility is designing this one little board, and I really hate documentation and budgets, so I'm not going to worry about any of that because that's somebody else's responsibility. And to a degree, I'm still very much like that. But I think I'd be way more ahead in my understanding of like my own little area if I tried to observe and learn a little bit about the process, even if it's not something that I'm doing. And I think the same thing can probably be said for Pearadox of like, I think there's a lot of value in just shadowing somebody or following somebody along for the day or the week or whatever in whatever some other area than what your expertise is in. It's always very easy to sit in what you're comfortable with, but I think there's a lot of value in trying to expand out past that. So that's all I wanted to add.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Okay, switching over to some career advice. So Kyle, if you're okay with kicking this one off, but I wanted to check to see if there was just any kind of open-ended advice, especially for those of you who are looking for internships or have internships lined up. Basically, Kyle, like what would you want to say to them as advice, either first related or just what you've learned in your career?
Oh, geez, that's a pretty open-ended question. So first of all, I think a common theme here I've heard pretty much everybody in the chat mention is that they have plans to intern or they did intern somewhere. Or they had a co-op along those lines. And while I don't recommend doing it as a freshman or even as a sophomore in college, finding an internship and something that interests you, finding a co-op and something that interests you is probably one of the things that's going to give you the biggest leg up on everybody else in the workforce. It'll give you real world experience. It will help you figure out what type of work you enjoy doing or don't enjoy doing, which is very important. And the other thing it does is, somebody else mentioned networking. And unfortunately, it is very true. It's not just necessarily what you know, it's also who you know. And those of you that are on Pearadox are very fortunate to work with the mentors that we work with. It gives you all kinds of connections with NASA and the engineering community. And if I could make prime controls as interesting as NASA, I'd have all the students come intern with me. But anyway, so it is, in my opinion, probably one of the most important things, other than keeping your GPA at a decent in a decent area, is finding a co-op. And one of the other students mentioned when you're looking for a college, figure out who they network with. Because they all have career fairs. Like my company has a few colleges that we work very closely with, and all of our recruiters go there every semester. I think they have a career fair at most colleges twice a year. And there's a ton of opportunities to find those companies. So, I mean, your colleges are there to help you with your career. So use the resources that are available. And the other piece of advice that I have is something my dad actually told me. He was in HR for 30 years, and he said the people that do well and advance in their careers are the people that promote themselves. So you can be the smartest, hardest working, most productive person in the company, but if nobody knows it, if nobody recognizes it, then you're going to be stuck doing where you are. And I'm not saying go around and tell everybody that you're the best at what you do and you're the best person in the company, but you need to make sure that your contributions are recognized. Obviously, I'm a very subtle person and don't tell anybody anything about what I do, but so like it's a difficult balance as well. You don't want to come off as the egotistical jerk that nobody likes because you think you're better than everybody else. So I suppose that's really college and work life and life in general, is finding a good balance of things. But I think that pretty much sums up my short end of the advice. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Kyle. Anissa, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I would just like to mention like some tips because I know this doesn't really apply to anyone in high school, but like I think it's important to know before you start out your freshman year of college. Like there are two important tips. Like one, your college will probably have a career fair, and you like at my school, like not a lot of freshmen went, but like some did. And like when I was talking to people, I found out like it wasn't really successful for many freshmen, um, except like me. And like I think something really important I did there was like do not say you're in freshman until they like ask. Like you put that off as long as possible. Wow them with like everything you've learned from robotics or any other internships, or even like during like the internship career fair is or the career fair is usually not until a little bit later into the semester. Just really enumerate on the things you've learned since being there and like your extracurriculars and stuff, and then just do not tell them a freshman until they ask you at the very end. Like I got like a few people were like, I usually don't take freshmen, but like you don't sound like one, and I couldn't tell for a long time. So like they took my application anyway. And then I had a lot of friends who like went up and were like, hey, I'm a freshman. Is there anything I would be able to do here? And they were like, no. And then like I think the second thing is like I did have like a lot of friends. I didn't go to this and I really regret it, but like if your school offers anything where they will send you to a conference, like my school has a chapter of SHIP, which is Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers. And they were able to like help like fundraise and take students to like this one really big conference. I forget where, but it was like a really big career conference, and everyone came out with loads of offers. And like I really regret not going to that and having more options. Like I didn't realize I could have options as a freshman, but if you like really put yourself out there, you really can.
Awesome. Thanks, Anissa. Abby, did you have something you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I have two big pieces of college and career advice. The first one is the advice that my mom gave me, and it was really good advice. Treat college like a job and work 9 to 5. So no matter when your first class starts and no matter when your class gets out, decide your working hours and just go to the library or wherever you can work. I could never work in my dorm, so I would just camp out in the library and just do your homework, do your studying for tests, and then after, and obviously a lot of times you're going to have to go later than 5 because you're in engineering and your professors hate you. But try to set up those hours that you're always working, and then you'll have a lot more free time. You'll be able to do a lot more extracurriculars that you want to do, or spend time with friends, or watch Netflix, or do all those like things that fill your bucket. The other best piece of advice I got was to set a rejection goal. So at the beginning of the year, decide how many things you would like to be rejected from. And if you don't meet your rejection goal, it means you're not applying to enough things. So there are a lot of times that you see something and you're like, that's me with my co-op. That's a big reach. I'm never going to get that. I probably shouldn't even apply. But you should. Like the biggest reason you don't get something is because you don't apply for it. Like Andrew said, there are a lot of scholarships that a lot of people don't claim. So set a rejection goal, and if you don't get enough rejections, it means you're not pushing yourself enough, and keep applying to more and more things that you think you wouldn't be able to get because you're a lot cooler than you think you are.
Thanks, Abby. Lori, it looks like you've got something you'd like to add as well.
So my part-time job that I currently have, I actually got it from a VR game jam. So there's events that happen where it's like called game jams, or there's hackathons, or there's various events that where you go and create games or like snippets of code or programming projects. I haven't done a hackathon, but my dad has. And so like just go and do events that have people that will be similar to you. Like even going to things like PAX South, which is like a gaming convention, you can go sit down and play board games with people and find out they're also an FRC alumni and they work at XYZ company. Like I've run into FRC people, they recognize my Pearadox gear and they're like, oh cool, let's go play board games together. And we go play board games and hang out, and like you can network that way. And it's really cool to just go like look up Houston robotics community, and like you will probably find something that where they go hang out and they go build robots somewhere. Like there's all sorts of crazy communities and organizations. Just have a friend go with you to make sure you're safe and network with people.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. And while you're on, go ahead, Kyle. It looks like you got one more thing.
And just to piggyback off of what Lori was saying, interesting definition of luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. And life, I've been very, very lucky, and you have to go out and generate those opportunities. And then when you find an opportunity and recognize that opportunity, you have to be prepared to take advantage of what that opportunity was. So I just wanted to preface that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyle. And I know we're running out of time, so if anyone needs to drop off the call, we've got one more question I'd like to get answered really quickly, and it's focused at Lori, but obviously anybody else that'd like to chime in, please let me know, and then we'll get into our closing comments and closing advice from all of our panelists. So Lori, we got a question that is, how did you get involved in the mechanical stuff without having a lot of prior experience and becoming comfortable with it?
I think it's just slow. Like, if you imagine, I was on the team for 4 years. So after you spend 3 years on a team that's like largely technical and mechanical, you eventually get like, maybe I should try robots. Just saying that it just starts affecting you. Like, maybe I should try making something like that's not art or marketing or chairman's or whatever. And so eventually, like, I went into that. It's just really thinking about it, and also just if you not confident with it, just talk to the mentors about it and be like, hey, I want to start off with something small. Like, you can get paired up with a veteran who could just help you learn more mechanical stuff. Because I went into it as a veteran, and it can be a little bit more intense that way, because people expect you to know what to do. Because rookies were like, oh, look, you're a veteran, you must be mechanical. And I'm like, no, I just started this year. I'm technically kind of like y'all, but it's a really weird balance. If you're a rookie, do it. Just go. Do it as soon as possible. Like, waiting till my senior year was a little bit harder, but you should just try your best to do it. But if you're not comfortable yet, talk to the mentors, maybe talk to your parents, talk to veterans and be like, hey, can I shadow you about XYZ? And like, it happens. Sometimes you just have to throw yourself out there, though, and you gotta go.
Before you mute Lori, so this is just from my perspective, and as moderator, I was trying to stay, not add my 2 cents, but what I remember from you is, I think we had a team over at our facility, and man, I saw you like getting in there and helping them with something electrical, and I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, like I usually don't see Lori this active on our own robot, and I was simultaneously like excited and a little sad. I was like, wait, why doesn't she like to work on our robot? So I don't know if you remember that, or if you'd like to comment on
5908. Their battery was put in the wrong spot, and they were gonna crush some of their electronics. So I was like, you can't have your battery there. And so, I don't know. I think the reason why I was like so excited about that is because I realized something that they didn't, and like because of that, they were a slightly younger team than us, so they weren't as prepared, but they weren't much younger. So I felt like I could help them out as friends, and then also like sometimes you feel like you have these expectations that your team has, like you have to be perfect or you have to be near perfect whenever you're making something or doing something for the first time. Realize no one actually has that expectation. It's just your brain being like, I need to do the thing perfectly. No, it's not true. You can just have fun, and like hanging out with another team helped me develop more technical skills because I didn't feel as much pressure, and they're just as clueless as I am, and like I know people on the team like Anissa and Alan, like they scare me with their technical skills sometimes. Like I was like, I can't say as much about electrical and programming as they can, but I can say these small things are wrong with XYZ's team's program or electrical. Like, you should probably wrap that up with electrical tape, otherwise your robot might die, type thing. Like simple things like that. No, sorry, you're a great human. It's just your electrical prowess exceeds my own vastly.
So I'm not gonna lie, that sounded like a direct Anissa quote. You're just gonna need to wrap that in some electrical tape. All right, thanks, Lori. Real quick, it looks like Abby, you have something that you'd like to add on to this as well.
Yeah, so I also had no exposure. I had never been on a robotics team, and I showed up my first day, which was 3 days into build season. I don't know why Drew told me it was a smart idea to show up, but I did.
Brilliant idea.
And so I think the biggest thing to remember is that no one was born knowing how to do this stuff. Like, you didn't pop out of the womb and be like, I know which way the Allen wrench goes. Like, everyone else was a beginner at this at one point too. And so even though they may seem like they have it all together, they very vividly remember probably stripping a bolt or doing something stupid. And so just remembering that everyone else has been there too. And yeah, Lori made a lot of really awesome points. It doesn't have to be perfect. Find a mentor or a veteran or somebody to take you under your wing. But yeah, just remember that everyone else was new at this at one point too, and that's okay.
Thanks, Abby. Anissa, did you have something that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would also like to add things. So like to elaborate on what Abby said, like, yeah, like no one is born knowing this stuff. I precisely remember when I was younger, like my brother had this really cool like technology book, and I saw like a printed circuit board, and all I could like abstract from it was that it was a magic rock, and I'm like, this is unknowable. Like there are 5 wizards in the world who can create these, and that is it. So I don't know about that. And then like later on when I was on the team, like Andrew like sat me down and walked me through Altium, how to like actually make a printed circuit board, and it was just so amazing. And I think like you should definitely like use all of your time on or like some of your time on the team dedicated to learning some technical skills, because like and like there's no real pressure. It's just really nice. Like when I went to college and like I started doing some of my courses, and they're like, you have to take a workshops tool, even though like they're not necessarily everyone was going to be building something. Like they had to take like a little class on like how to use power tools and stuff. And it's like, it's just nice to like go in already knowing that and be able to help other people. And I think if there's like any hesitation on just like, oh, well, I'm this part of the team, I don't need to do that. And I think if there's anyone doing only technical and they're like, oh, well, that's that part of the team, I don't need to do that. There is so much you get so many benefits out of doing both on the team. Like I'd encourage anyone on the team to be involved in like, you can do like your favorite thing. Like I loved electrical, but I did some time in chairman's because I'm just like, I can really bring a technical perspective to this, and they can help me learn how to communicate better what my technical perspective is. And like the judges will love it much more if like everyone kind of knows a bit of everything and everything is very cohesive. And yeah.
Thank you, Anissa. And just a reminder, no one was paid to say any of their answers or advice. Thank you guys so much. This has been really great. And I know that we're over time, but I'd like to go back through all of our panelists and just a little bit of closing advice from each of you, whatever you feel like you'd like to say to our current team members, and maybe that you didn't get to add into one of your answers. This is open-ended, and whatever you want to say, whether it's college-related, FIRST-related, career-related, or just whatever you want to say. So I'll kind of go back down the same list order as the introductions. So maybe if we could start with Abby, if you've got any closing advice.
Yeah, I blew my really good advice on set a rejection limit. But yeah, just opportunities aren't going to be handed to you. If you see something that looks cool, you should do it. You should put yourself out there because, yeah, college is a really awesome place to learn things. But if you don't ever step outside of your comfort zone, you're never going to be able to do that. So apply to everything.
Thank you, Abby. Daniel, if you've got some closing advice.
Yeah, I got advice. So since my point of view was really set on dentistry, I thought I didn't need CAD. But since I changed my majors, yeah, that's been a burden for me because with all these internships and co-ops, they require CAD of any sorts, SolidWorks, Inventor, and all that. And also, I've been told that CAD is also like driving a car. Once you went from SUV to a big old truck, it's pretty much the same, but a little different. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me for now.
All right, thank you so much, Jared. Anissa, if you've got some closing advice for everyone.
Yeah. So I think this goes a little bit with like networking and like learning, but like I would say like don't be afraid to ask like your dumbest questions ever. Like usually like the person will like get a good laugh of them, and if you're asking the right people, like they won't be too judgmental because like everyone's been there once. But like one of the best ways to like learn and network is to just like really start open up, like communicate or like start communicating with people. And like the one way to do that is to just have a lot of questions and be willing to ask them. People usually love like sharing what they've learned.
Awesome. Thank you, Anissa. Alan, do you have any closing advice for everyone?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that helped me most in college is finding a friend group. Especially like mine's is related to my major specifically. We're all taking the same classes together, so we're able to help each other out on like homework and like study together, and it really helps alleviate all the rigorous coursework. And like you can find these friends from like clubs. For us, for me personally, I found it through like my first year interest group, but I think getting a friend group is really important for just getting through college.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. Lori, do you have any closing advice or thoughts?
It's just a couple statements. Learn CAD, ask a lot of questions, don't burn bridges, like just make friends with people and realize that even if they aren't the nicest people, they may eventually be a nicer human, and they also people grow and they learn, and they may also end up at a company that you want to go work at, and it's good to have people that you properly network with. Fourth thing is get involved with the first community. As someone who eventually, like, I ended up volunteering a lot. Even if I didn't sign up to volunteer, I helped set up the field, and thus I helped out the volunteers that were there who were like, oh, thank goodness you helped set up the field. There's so many zip ties. And like you get to learn these volunteers, and they have really cool jobs, and they're also really cool people to know and network with. And then the fifth thing is don't expect to be perfect. You won't be perfect learning CAD, asking questions. You won't be perfect at communicating or networking. Just expect it and roll with it. And just apologize when necessary.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lori. Sophia, do you have any closing advice or thoughts?
Yeah, so my advice would probably be like get the most out of your time in high school, even though like it is a really stressful time. I think you can do actually a lot with it. So in high school, I think high school students are just as capable as learning engineering concepts and like doing projects as college students. Like as long as you start early, I think you can learn anything you set your mind to. So if you're interested in doing like a project, then definitely go for it.
Great. Thank you so much, Sophia. Ian, do you have any closing advice or thoughts?
Carry an up-to-date resume wherever you go, because that weird dude in the suit at the front of your physics class might be working for a Department of Defense agency. Who knows? Have a up-to-date LinkedIn on that thing too. And anytime you see something like it depends on your major. IEEE, ASME, or not IEEE, whatever the electrical equivalent of ASME is, join it. I don't care if the $25 for the dues is a couple of McDonald's meals or whatever, because your cafeteria food sucks. It is worth joining. The networking opportunities are endless. And if you drink more than 3 monsters in a day, watch your heart rate. That's about it.
Oh man. Thanks, Ian. Yes, please watch your heart rate if you're gonna drink that much. Justin, I don't know if I got to hear your closing thoughts or advice, or if you were, I think I unmuted you. So do you have any closing thoughts or advice for everyone?
So for me, I'd say that believe in yourself, have confidence, and stay motivated, because you have no idea how much that's going to help you throughout college and life in general. Because for having confidence in yourself, my main problem was that I didn't really think that I could do much in robotics and in school in general. And so now I'm going into college and I'm thinking, wow, like I definitely could have done this. I just like didn't really get to try it. And, yeah, I still think about that. I'm still experiencing that every day, and stay motivated because there's a lot of college students who, like, after they get into college, they pretty much just procrastinate a lot compared to when they're in high school. Because like right now, I am barely being able to stay motivated because like I have so much free time. There's so much work that I pretty much I basically do things a lot more inefficiently than what I do in school. And so yeah, just those two simple things are really big, even though you hear them every day and it's common sense, but it really hits you like when you finally get that aha moment. Wow.
And thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate it. And Kyle, if you're still on the line, would you like to share any closing advice or thoughts?
I know we're short on time, but I think this is an important one. It'll be a little long-winded here, so forgive me. This is more of a somber experience. I'll share my own experience as a freshman. I was completely unprepared for college. I think I've alluded to that a couple times. But I ended up in the transition from high school, where you have your parents backing you up and telling you what to do, to college, living in the dorms, being responsible for yourself. It's pretty jarring. And if you're not prepared for that, and you don't have a support system, things can go wrong. I did not attend a single day of class my second semester. I ended up with a 0.0 GPA my second semester of college. The most depressed I've ever been in my life. And I think the current generation is much better at recognizing emotional distress, and they're more supportive than back in my day. But it's one of those things where if you are overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, ask for help. Your colleges have programs that are designed to help you. If you're lucky, you have friends who can recognize that you're depressed or that you're struggling, and they'll pull you up. But the people that, in my experience, truly care about other people to that depth are few and far between. So it is important to recognize that you're struggling, and to realize that it's okay that you're struggling, and to ask people for help, because generally people are good, and if you ask for help, they want to give it to you. So that's I have managed to turn things around. It took me a long time, but I have managed to have a successful career. So it's not the end of the world if you crash and burn your freshman year in college. It's not the end of the world if you don't end up with your degree. It certainly makes life a heck of a lot easier if you do have your degree. I have had to fight tooth and nail for where I am, and I have had to seize on a couple of very important opportunities. And quite frankly, I very much enjoy what I do. I love the company that I work for. It's great. But I've still ended up working adjacent to the career that I really wanted, as opposed to the career. I didn't exactly have an idea. I knew I wanted to go into something that was robotics related, and I ended up in an automation career, which is a lot of fun, and it's directly adjacent, and I do a lot of amazing things, but I still didn't end up quite where I wanted to. And had I gone back and asked for help my freshman year, had I gone to the counseling services that they had I asked my friends for help, I may have ended up with my degree in a couple of years and been able to go into research or go into mechanical engineering or something else that was directly related. So there's been a lot of amazing advice here. And the other thing, I don't think we're supposed to tell you guys this, but everybody is winging it. We all have no idea what we're doing, and we're struggling our way through life, and we're making the best decisions that we can make at the time. So it is okay to make mistakes. It is better if you learn from your mistakes. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Kyle. One, just to reiterate, you're absolutely right about the winging it. I hosted my first webinar last week in front of like 12 NASA engineers, so that was a fun feeling. But then also, I wholeheartedly agree, please reach out to someone that you trust. first and foremost. But then if you really don't feel like there's anyone you can trust, as Lori mentioned in the chat there, college campuses specifically have people that don't have any expectations of you, and their job is to really be there to help you. So please find someone to reach out to. And just on a personal note, after I left my first robotics team, I had so many great mentors, but after I left, I felt like they had given me so much that I didn't deserve to ask them for anything else. But just a reminder that your mentors are still here, and we still care about you as well. So thanks for that, Kyle. Andrew, do you have any closing thoughts or advice? And it seems like you've got a story, if nothing else.
Yeah. So all of what I'm going to finish up here with is emphasizing the networking thing. I think that's really important. And I'm going to give some specific examples. One, just tying back into what Kyle said, when you're in that area, surrounding yourself with people that you know and trust, that are reaching out for you, they care about your success. And then also be one of those people for them as well. Be someone that they can trust and support their successes. Also, I'll kind of pick on Ian as an example, because his freshman year through his junior year, when he was around and dependable and everything else, I was thinking, oh, he's great, I'd write a recommendation for him. And then kind of as he alluded to, something just kind of happened and he had to just cut everything out entirely. And I was like, man, if he asked me at the end of senior year for a recommendation, I wouldn't know what to do, because I don't really know what happened or what's going on, or whatever. But now to see where he's at now, and he's gotten stuff together, and he's networking with people again, and it's really awesome to me as a mentor to see the lessons that he's learned and how he's applying them. And it's really at a point where I'm like, okay, if he asked me for a recommendation or something, I could put something together. And so that kind of also ties in with what just what a bunch of people said. It's just how important it is to network, and reaching out to those people. So I'm going to tie that into my personal story, which is while I was at Purdue. As I mentioned, the reason I went to Purdue was because I knew they had a co-op, or they had people that co-opt with NASA. So that was my driving factor to go there, was because I wanted to co-op at NASA. I didn't really understand how credit hours and GPA worked, apparently. In high school, every class was rated the same as 1 credit hour. And then I go to college, and now everything's like, oh, there's a 5 credit hour class and a 3 credit hour class. And that was something totally new to me. I just thought an A was an A, a B was a B, whatever. And I was silly or dumb or whatever, and I skipped Calc 2 entirely. I took the AP Calc B C test, and I got a 5, and I'm thinking, oh, great, I'll just jump right into honors Calc 3. Also, don't take honors classes in college. I don't understand why they exist. But I was just so egotistical, like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take honors Calc 3, whatever. And so I got a B in it, and I was happy with that because it was a hard class, but it was a 5 credit hour class. So suddenly now my GPA came down a lot more than I would have anticipated, like getting 1B on a report card in high school versus my 1B that I got on my report card my first year of college. So now I had like a 3.6 GPA or something like that, which whatever, that was fine with me. So then I go apply, and Purdue was really, I don't like how they did it, at least at the time. Purdue decided who got to interview with who. And so they said, if you want to co-op NASA, you need to only put NASA as the only company you want to interview with, because we're going to prioritize people that that's their only thing that they want to do. And so I followed their advice because that was the only thing I wanted to do. And then Purdue looked at my GPA and they're like, oh, you don't have a 4.0. We're not going to allow you to interview with NASA. I'm like, why do you get to decide who I get to interview with? That's the company's decision, or in this case, the agency's decision. And so the only reason I was able to get an interview with NASA is because during that first year, my first semester, I came across 5 different people that were co-ops at NASA. And every single one I talked to them, I'd ask them a couple questions about what their experience was like. And I would make sure to get their name and email. And so when I didn't get the interview through Purdue, I emailed each one of them individually saying, hey, I really want to interview with NASA. Purdue didn't give me the interview. Is there anyone you can forward my resume onto? So I emailed all 5 of them. All 5 of them were people that I interacted with closely. It's not just like I met them once or something like that. They were TAs for a class. They were friends of the friends that I would see around, whatever. And out of all 5 of those, only one person forwarded my resume onto the co-op coordinator. But that one person was enough. So the co-op coordinator, she did all of her interviews at Purdue. She emailed me and said that she would be willing to stay late and interview me. And that really ended up working out to my advantage, because Purdue had all the interviews set up where there was like a literal bell where you had 5 minutes with every person doing an interview, and then the bell would ring and the interview would have to be cut off or whatever. And so the coordinator at the time really didn't like that setup anyways. It wasn't good for her. So it worked out for me because we didn't have all of these extra rules or requirements around it. She and I just sat down somewhere. She interviewed me, asked me whatever questions she wanted. And I think it worked out as well, that it really showed how badly I wanted to come and work there. And so I just want to share that story because I think it's really important to show the networking. When I was rejected that interview, I took it really hard. I was like, this is the only thing I want to do. And I was just told, like, oh, you're not good enough for it. And I was texting my friends back home from high school about it. And I remember in particular, one friend was like, so who cares what they think? And I don't know why, but that was just really eye-opening for me of like, yeah, who cares what they think? And it was really encouraging for me without it having to be something really like emotional or go get them or whatever. She was just kind of being a butt about it. Like, I don't care. Like, that's not going to stop you. And so that was really cool. And so I think it's important to surround yourself with good people, network with as many people as you can, take advantages of those networks when you can, and not let other people tell you what you can and cannot do. And so all that obviously resulted in me getting my full-time job here. So I think that's hopefully a good story to hear and tie a bunch of things together there.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I guess just to reiterate that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but you did get the co-op that you were originally not allowed to interview for because you went and fought for it and basically took no as not right now, and tried to figure out how you could make something like that happen for yourself. And then that co-op series ultimately led to you being full-time with NASA ever since, right?
Yeah, so I did get the interview at the time as everybody else that I was rejected. And so I got that co-op offer at that time. And then I remember going into the co-op office to say, oh, I got a job offer from NASA. And they're like, but we didn't give you any interviews. And I was like, why are you guys being such jerks? This is my dream. Why are you guys holding me back? So anyways, don't go to Purdue. And yeah, so I did get the co-op, and I co-oped all 5 years, or 4.5 years or whatever it was I was at college. Yeah, so everything did pan out just fine, but I still definitely hold a grudge against Purdue. But I try to take away the lessons learned and hopefully share the lessons learned with you, not necessarily just the grudge, even though I think it's fun to expand on the grudge.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew. And I'm so sorry we ran so long over time, but I really value everyone's input and feedback and advice and thoughts and stories. I'm going to make this a video that our team can share. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I also just want to say on the networking side of things, talk to the people here, like Kyle or me or any of your other mentors or alumni. Like, ask me questions. I'm opinionated. I'll tell you what it is that I think. And I'm sure that other mentors are the same thing. So don't only limit yourself to this type of situation to ask these questions and find things out.
Yeah, thank you for that, Andrew, because I'm going to make this video available for anyone that had to drop off early, couldn't attend at all, because I think that this is really great advice. But to piggyback off of what Andrew was even just saying, we've got this wonderful thing called Slack, and we've got lots of people, some of the same people that are on the call. So reach out to us. We've got a whole college channel that not many people are in. So the answering your questions doesn't have to end here, even though hopefully we were able to get a lot of really good perspectives on a lot of these questions. And if there's a question that you prefer to answer or get answered or if you prefer to ask a question anonymously, Andrew and I would be more than happy to, if you forward us a question in a DM, and we can pose it to the group, and then that way we can get those questions answered for you. So to Andrew's point, please utilize us. We're here mentoring you guys for a reason, and we're getting the itch during this quarantine anyway. So please go ahead and utilize those channels that we have. If you're not in some channels, go ahead and search the channels for career advice, internships, scholarships, college, and let's start up those conversations. Tag mentors that aren't in those channels. We'd be more than happy to join those channels and have that conversation with you. And I'm sure we can ping off of some of our alumni as well. So I really just want to thank everyone again for either joining the call to listen in or being a panelist and answering some of these questions. You guys have really had a lot of valuable feedback and insight, and I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you all very much. And with that being 30 minutes over, we'll go ahead and sign off.